Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Not mixed with extraneous elements. Sheer wine. Very steep, having a prominent and almost vertical front. A sheer descent of rock. Turn sharply, change direction abruptly. Straight up or down without a break. Complete and without restriction or qualification, sometimes used informally as intensifiers. Got the job through sheer persistence. So thin as to transmit light. Sheer silk stockings. Cuz to sheer. She sheared her car around the obstacle. Not mixed with extraneous elements. Plain water. Express complaints, discontent, displeasure, or unhappiness. My mother complains all day. Clearly revealed to the mind or the senses or judgment. Made his meaning plain. Free from any effort to soften to disguise. The plain and unvarnished truth. Lacking embellishment or ornamentation. A plain hairstyle. Unmistakably, plain is often used informally for plainly. You are plainly wrong. Extensive tract of level open land. They emerged from the woods onto a vast open plain. Lacking patterns, especially in color. Lacking in physical beauty or proportion. A plain girl with a freckled face. A basic knitting stitch made by putting the needle through the front of the stitch from the left-hand side. Not elaborate or elaborated, simple. Plain food. Not mixed with extraneous elements. Not mixed with extraneous elements. Not an unmixed blessing. Not constituting a compound. Deceive an opponent by a bold bet on an inferior hand with the result that the opponent withdraws a winning hand. Very steep, having a prominent and almost vertical front. A bluff headland. The act of bluffing in poker. Deception by a false show of confidence in the strength of your cards. A high steep bank, usually formed by river erosion. Bluntly direct and outspoken but good-natured. A bluff but pleasant manner. Frighten someone by pretending to be stronger than one really is. Pretense that your position is stronger than it really is. His bluff succeeded in getting him accepted. A typeface with thick, heavy lines. Very steep, having a prominent and almost vertical front. Where the bold chalk cliffs of England rise. Clear and distinct. Bold handwriting. Fearless and daring. Bold settlers on some foreign shore. The trace of a point whose direction of motion changes. Form a curl, curve, or kink. Turn sharply, change direction abruptly. Curved segment, of a road or river or railroad track, etc. The property possessed by the curving of a line or surface. Bend or cause to bend. The road curved sharply. Extend in curves and turns. Form an arch or curve. Her hips curve nicely. A pitch of a baseball that is thrown with spin so that its path curves as it approaches the batter. A line on a graph representing data. The omission that is made when an editorial change shortens a written passage. Weed out unwanted or unnecessary things. We had to lose weight, so we cut the sugar from our diet. Cut down on. Make a reduction in. The employer wants to cut back health benefits. The act of penetrating or opening open with a sharp edge. His cut in the lining revealed the hidden jewels. Made neat and tidy by trimming. In baseball, a batter's attempt to hit a pitched ball. He took a vicious cut at the ball. Used of rates or prices, reduced usually sharply. Lessen the strength or flavor of a solution or mixture. Cut bourbon. Cut and assemble the components of. Cut recording tape. Used of grass or vegetation, cut down with a hand implement or machine. Reduce in scope while retaining essential elements. The act of cutting something into parts. His cuts were skillful. Refuse to acknowledge. She cut him dead at the meeting. Turn sharply. Change direction abruptly. The car cut to the left at the intersection. Be able to manage or manage successfully. She could not cut the long days in the office. Mixed with water. Sold cut whiskey. A refusal to recognize someone you know. The act of shortening something by chopping off the ends. The barber gave him a good cut. Sports. A stroke that puts reverse spin on the ball. Cuts do not bother a good tennis player. Style and tailor in a certain fashion. Cut a dress. With parts removed. The drastically cut film. A wound made by cutting. He put a bandage over the cut. Create by duplicating data. Cut a disk. Cease, stop. Cut the noise. Cut off the testicles, of male animals such as horses. A piece of meat that has been cut from an animal carcass. Make out an issue. Cut a ticket. A trench resembling a furrow that was made by erosion or excavation. A remark capable of wounding mentally. The unkindest cut of all. Intentionally fail to attend. Cut class. A distinct selection of music from a recording or a compact disc. He played the first cut on the CD. The division of a deck of cards before dealing. He insisted that we give him the last cut before every deal. Of a male animal, having the testicles removed. A cut horse. Cuss to stop operating by disengaging a switch. Cut the engine. A canal made by erosion or excavation. Allow incision or separation. This bread cuts easily. An unexcused absence from class. He was punished for taking too many cuts in his math class. A share of the profits. Everyone got a cut of the earnings. A step on some scale. He is a cut above the rest. Discharge from a group. The coach cut 2 players from the team. Dissolve by breaking down the fat of. Soap cuts grease. Divide a deck of cards at random into 2 parts to make selection difficult. Wane cut. Fashioned or shaped by cutting. A well-cut suit. Fell by sawing. Hew. The Vietnamese cut a lot of timber while they occupied Cambodia. Film. An immediate transition from one shot to the next. The cut from the accident scene to the hospital seemed too abrupt. Form by probing, penetrating, or digging. Cut a hole. Form or shape by cutting or incising. Cut paper dolls. Function as a cutting instrument. This knife cuts well. Give the appearance or impression of. Cut a nice figure. Grow through the gums. The new tooth is cutting. Have a reducing effect. This cuts into my earnings. Have growth through the gums. The baby cut a tooth. Hit a ball with a spin so that it turns in the opposite direction. Cut a ping pong ball. Make an abrupt change of image or sound. Cut from one scene to another. Make an incision or separation. Cut along the dotted line. Make a recording of. Cut the songs. Move one's fist. His opponent cut upward toward his chin. Pass directly and often in haste. We cut through the neighbor's yard to get home sooner. Pass through or across. The boat cut the water. Penetrate injuriously. The glass from the shattered windshield cut into her forehead. Perform or carry out. Cut a caper. Reap or harvest. Cut grain. Record a performance on a medium. Cut a record. Separated into parts or laid open or penetrated with a sharp edge or instrument. The cut surface was modeled. Separate with or as if with an instrument. Shorten as if by severing the edges or ends of. Cut my hair. Stop filming. Cut a movie scene. The act of reducing the amount or number. The mayor proposed extensive cuts in the city budget. The style in which a garment is cut. A dress of traditional cut. Of pages of a book, having the folds of the leaves trimmed or slit. The cut pages of the book. Move obliquely or sideways, usually in an uncontrolled manner. Turn sharply. Change direction abruptly. Often followed by of a large number or amount or extent. A slew of journalists. Move obliquely or sideways, usually in an uncontrolled manner. Turn sharply. Change direction abruptly. An erratic deflection from an intended course. Turn sharply. Change direction abruptly. The act of turning aside suddenly. General line of orientation. The northeastern trend of the coast. The popular taste at a given time. He followed current trends. A general direction in which something tends to move. The trend of the stock market. Turn sharply. Change direction abruptly. A general tendency to change, as of opinion. Not openly liberal, but that is the trend of the book. Turn sharply. Change direction abruptly. The motorbike veered to the right. Shift to a clockwise direction. The wind veered. Straight up or down without a break. In a perpendicular manner. This red line runs perpendicularly to the green line. Not capable of being violated or infringed. Complete and without restriction or qualification, sometimes used informally as intensifiers. Absolute freedom. Expressing finality with no implication of possible change. An absolute guarantee to respect the nation's authority. Not limited by law. An absolute monarch. Perfect or complete or pure. Absolute loyalty. Something that is conceived or that exists independently and not in relation to other things. Something that does not depend on anything else and is beyond human control. Something that is not relative. No mortal being can influence the absolute. Complete and without restriction or qualification, sometimes used informally as intensifiers. A downright lie. Characterized by plain blunt honesty. A downright answer. Thoroughgoing. Complete and without restriction or qualification, sometimes used informally as intensifiers. Out-and-out mayhem. Assign a rank or rating to. How would you rank these students? The ordinary members of an organization, such as the enlisted soldiers of an army. The strike was supported by the Union rank and file. Conspicuously and outrageously bad or reprehensible. Rank treachery. Position in a social hierarchy. Take precedence or surpass others in rank. Complete and without restriction or qualification, sometimes used informally as intensifiers. A rank outsider. The body of members of an organization or group. They found dissension in their own ranks. A row or line of people, especially soldiers or police, standing abreast of one another. The entrance was guarded by ranks of policemen. Growing profusely. Rank jungle vegetation. Relative status. His salary was determined by his rank and seniority. Take or have a position relative to others. This painting ranks among the best in the Western world. Very fertile, producing profuse growth. Rank earth. Very offensive in smell or taste. A rank cigar. Complete and without restriction or qualification, sometimes used informally as intensifiers. Many write-down vices. So thin as to transmit light. Covered with cobwebs. So thin as to transmit light. A hat with a diaphanous veil. So thin as to transmit light. Filmy wings of a moth. So thin as to transmit light. So thin as to transmit light. Gauzy clouds of dandelion down. Characterized by unusual lightness and delicacy. Gossamer shading through his playing. So thin as to transmit light. Gossamer cobwebs. Filaments from a web that was spun by a spider. A gauze fabric with an extremely fine texture. So thin as to transmit light. Transmitting light. Able to be seen through with clarity. Transparent crystal. So thin as to transmit light. Transparent chiffon. Free of deceit. Easily understood or seen through, because of a lack of subtlety. A transparent explanation. Resembling or characteristic of vapor. Vaporous clouds. Filled with vapor. A vaporous bog. So thin as to transmit light. Vaporous silks. Resembling or characteristic of vapor. Filled with vapor. So thin as to transmit light. Without qualification. Used informally as, often pejorative, intensifiers. Pure folly. In a state of sexual virginity. Pure and vestal modesty. Of color, being chromatically pure, not diluted with white or gray or black. Concerned with theory and data rather than practice, opposed to applied. Pure science. Free from discordant qualities. Free of extraneous elements of any kind. Pure air and water. Used of persons or behaviors, having no faults, sinless. I felt pure and sweet as a new baby. Greatly exceeding bounds of reason or moderation. Devote oneself fully to. Let sit in a liquid to extract a flavor or to cleanse. Steep the blossoms in oil. A steep place, as on a hill. Having a sharp inclination. The steep attic stairs. Of a slope, set at a high angle. Note the steep incline.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.